the alien princess realizes the warrior who won the war is her childhood friend. For decades, the humans and the alien civilizations had fought without pause, each side believing they alone held the future. Yet now, silence filled the void where once cannon fire roared. Lyra, princess of the kingdom of Viridia, floated silently in the observation chamber of her orbiting palace. The windows stretched across the walls, offering a perfect view of the ruined planet below. The once lush forests were blackened and burned, rivers ran brown with debris, and cities that had been centers of culture and art were reduced to rubble. Lyra's violet eyes traced the destruction, but her mind was elsewhere. She could not shake the feeling that the war's true end had not yet arrived, not until she knew who had truly won. She stood there for hours, alone except for the soft hum of the palace's life support systems. The council had been sending reports. The humans had taken the final stronghold, the last fleets had surrendered, and the war hero leading them had already begun moving toward her planet. Rumors had reached her ears, rumors of courage, strategy, and fearlessness. But Lyra did not know the face behind the name. Her fingers rested lightly on the railing. Memories from her childhood flickered like distant stars. She remembered running through the palace gardens, laughing at games she could barely explain to her younger self. She remembered the warmth of friendship, the feeling of companionship that once felt eternal. She remembered a boy, a human boy, who had been her friend before the war had begun, before politics and armies had stolen the freedom of youth. She had not seen him in years. Not since they were children. Lyra's thoughts were interrupted by the quiet chime of the palace intercom. "Your Highness," said a calm voice, "the war hero has arrived in the system. His fleet awaits permission to enter orbit." She nodded, her stomach tightening. She had expected this moment, but now that it had come, she felt the weight of it more heavily than she had imagined. The hero, the one who had won the war. Soon she would meet him face to face, and she could not help but wonder. Would he be the same boy she remembered, or would the years of battle have made him unrecognizable? Outside, in the darkness of space, the human fleet shimmered like a river of stars. The ships moved in perfect formation, a display of discipline and strength. At the center of the fleet, a massive command vessel glowed with white light, signaling the arrival of their leader. On board, Kale, the warrior commander, stood at the bridge, staring at the distant planet. Kale's hands rested lightly on the console, but his mind was elsewhere. He had fought countless battles, made impossible decisions, and watched friends fall. Yet despite all the chaos, one thought never left him, the hope of seeing her again. He had not known she would survive the war, but he had held onto the memory of her face, the laughter they had shared, and the promise they had made to explore the stars together. That memory had kept him alive through the darkest hours. The command vessel slowed as it approached the planet's orbit, and Kale's second-in-command, Lieutenant Myra, spoke softly. "Commander, the princess is awaiting your arrival. They are expecting a formal meeting." Kale nodded. "I know," he replied, his voice calm but heavy with emotion. "I've waited a long time for this. Let's hope the years have not changed her too much." On Viridia, Lyra walked through the corridors of the palace, her gown flowing silently behind her. The walls were lined with intricate designs, a reminder of the beauty that still remained in her kingdom despite the war. Guards bowed as she passed, but she barely noticed them. Her mind was focused on the approaching moment. The council had prepared for the hero's arrival, arranging every detail for the grand ceremony. Yet Lyra felt that no ceremony could prepare her for the truth she might face. As she entered the throne room, her heart beat faster. The room was vast, with high ceilings and columns that reached like fingers toward the sky. Sunlight filtered through the tall windows, casting patterns on the polished floor. The council members stood to the side, whispering quietly among themselves. They had all heard of the human hero, and their eyes were filled with curiosity and caution. Lyra took her seat upon the throne, her hands folded in her lap. She looked out at the doors, waiting, and then they opened. Kale stepped into the room, his armor polished, his posture strong, and his eyes scanning the chamber. He had grown taller, broader, and the lines of battle marked his face, but there was something familiar about the way he carried himself. He paused for a moment, taking in the sight of the princess who sat before him. She had changed too, her hair longer, her presence more commanding, but the essence of her, the spark he remembered from childhood, was unmistakable. Lyra's breath caught in her throat. The rumors of bravery and victory faded from her mind as she looked at him. Something deep inside stirred, a memory too long hidden. Her fingers clenched slightly on the armrest, and she spoke before she could stop herself. "Kale," the single word echoed in the room. Kale froze, eyes widening slightly, and then a slow smile spread across his face. "Lyra," he whispered, as if saying her name aloud confirmed the reality. I didn't know if you were still." His voice faltered, and he shook his head, regaining composure. "I'm here." For a moment, silence filled the room. The council members exchanged nervous glances, unsure of how to respond to the unexpected recognition. But Lyra and Kale hardly noticed. The war, the politics, the destruction, it all faded away, leaving only the bond they had shared as children. Lyra rose from her throne, her eyes never leaving his. "I can't believe it after all these years." Kale nodded, stepping forward, his movements cautious but determined. "I survived because I remembered you. I remembered what we promised each other long ago." Lyra's heart swelled with emotion. The fear, the uncertainty, the loneliness she had carried through the war, it all seemed to lighten, replaced by the warmth of familiarity. She wanted to speak, to ask 1,000 questions, but words failed her. Instead, she simply nodded, and Kale took another step closer. The council, sensing the shift in the room, began murmuring among themselves. Some whispered of the risks of forming too close a bond with a former enemy commander. Others wondered if this reunion could bring hope for lasting peace. But Lyra and Kale were beyond the whispers. Their eyes met, and the years apart melted away in an instant. Kale finally spoke again, his voice steady this time. "You've grown strong, stronger than I ever imagined." Lyra's lips curved into a small smile. "And you've changed, but I can still see the boy I knew, the one who promised to explore the stars with me." For a long moment, they stood in silence, the weight of the past and the promise of the future pressing around them. Outside, the sun began to rise over the ruined planet, casting a golden light that filled the throne room. It was as if the universe itself was marking the end of the war and the beginning of something new. Kale's gaze softened. "We have a lot to talk about," he said quietly. "The war is over, but the work of rebuilding, of healing, it's just beginning." Lyra nodded. "And perhaps we can do it together." In that moment, amidst the remnants of war and the uncertainty of peace, a spark of hope ignited. Two childhood friends, separated by time and conflict, had found each other again. And though the future was uncertain, they knew that their bond, tested by distance, survival, and the trials of war, was unbreakable. The human hero and the alien princess, standing together in the heart of a shattered world, realized that victory was not just about battles won, but about the connections that endured. And in that realization, a new story began, a story of friendship, courage, and the promise of a brighter tomorrow. The grand doors of the throne room closed behind Kale, leaving a faint echo that seemed to linger in the high ceilings. Lyra sat back in her throne, her fingers lightly brushing the polished armrests, as if grounding herself in reality. The past and the present collided inside her, a swirling storm of memories she hadn't expected to feel so strongly. She remembered the days long ago when she had roamed the palace gardens freely, the scent of alien flowers filling the air. She remembered Kale's laughter, the way he had challenged her to races among the trees, and how he had always encouraged her to climb the tallest branches, to reach higher than she thought possible. Those memories had once seemed like distant dreams, fading with the years of war, but now they returned with startling clarity. Kale stood a few steps away, his armor reflecting the soft morning light streaming through the windows. He watched her carefully, studying the way her shoulders held tension, the subtle flicker of emotion in her eyes. He wanted to reach out to bridge the gap between them, but he knew that words alone were not enough. Their worlds had changed, and the innocence of childhood could not simply return without understanding the trials they had both endured. Finally, Lyra spoke, her voice calm but edged with curiosity. "Kale, tell me about the final battle. I need to understand everything." Kale nodded, stepping closer, his voice steady but soft. "It was not easy. The enemy was strong, their fleets coordinated, and they were determined to resist. But our people, my soldiers, they believed in something greater than themselves. They fought not for glory, but for survival, for the hope of peace." Lyra listened intently, her mind picturing the chaos he described. She had seen the aftermath, the ruined landscapes, the shattered cities. But hearing the story from the person who led the victory added a human perspective she had not anticipated. She felt a mixture of pride and sorrow, pride for the courage shown, and sorrow for the lives lost along the way. Kale continued, his voice filled with quiet strength. There were moments when I thought we could not succeed, but then I remembered you. I remembered the promises we made when we were children. You gave me hope, Lyra, even when we were far apart, even when the galaxy seemed to turn against us. Lyra's chest tightened. She had never expected her childhood friend to carry such memories, to find strength in her. She wanted to speak, to reassure him that she had done the same, but the words seemed fragile in the weight of what they were sharing. The council, seated along the sides of the throne room, watched the reunion with cautious curiosity. Some whispered about the risks of personal bonds influencing political decisions. Others wondered if this connection could bring a bridge of trust between the human forces and the alien kingdoms. But Lyra and Kale were absorbed in each other, the rest of the room fading into a blur of insignificance. After a long pause, Lyra finally spoke. Kale, the war, it changed everything. My people, my planet, we have so much to rebuild, I don't know where to start. Kale's gaze softened and he knelt slightly, lowering himself to meet her eyes. Then we start together. We begin with what we have. The people, the land, and the hope that we can make it better than before. Her lips curved into a small smile, a fragile flicker of relief. I never thought I'd see you again, and now, I can't imagine facing the future without you by my side. Kale reached out, gently resting a hand on hers. The contact was light but grounding, a reminder of the bond they had shared and the trust they were rebuilding. Then we face it together, he said firmly. The council's whispers grew louder, some members exchanging uneasy glances. Lyra noticed, but she did not allow herself to be distracted. The past years of war had taught her that leadership required courage, and courage sometimes meant following her heart even when others doubted her judgment. Later in the private chambers, Lyra and Kale walked side by side, the corridor stretching long and empty before them. The walls were adorned with tapestries depicting the history of Veridia, battles won and lost, heroes remembered, and moments of unity celebrated. The symbolism was not lost on them. They were now part of this history, their reunion a testament to survival and resilience. Kale broke the silence. I still remember the first time I saw your planet from my shuttle. I thought it would be gone forever. The war made me fear losing you, losing everything that mattered. Lyra's eyes softened. And yet here we are, we survived. That alone feels like a miracle. He nodded. It is, and now we must honor it. We must make sure that the next generation does not inherit the same fear and pain we endured. They reached a balcony overlooking the planet's surface. Below, the remnants of cities were slowly being cleared by reconstruction teams, workers moving like ants in the rubble, trying to restore life where destruction had reigned. Lyra leaned on the railing, her eyes tracing the efforts of her people. Look at them, she said softly. Even after everything, they continue, they rebuild, they hope. Kale stood beside her, silent for a moment, then spoke with conviction. Humans do the same. That is why we fight. That is why we survive. The ability to endure, to rise again, it is what defines us. Lyra smiled, her heart swelling with admiration. You never change, Kale. Even after the war, your spirit remains unyielding. And you, he said, your strength has grown. You carry the weight of your people with grace. You are the leader they need, Lyra. Just as you were the friend I never forgot. The memory of their shared childhood resurfaced more vividly than ever. She recalled the secret tunnels beneath the palace gardens where they had hidden from guards, the starlit nights when they whispered dreams of exploration, and the promises made to each other to see the universe beyond their worlds. Those moments had seemed like fleeting fantasies, yet now they felt prophetic, like guiding stars leading them back to each other. As the sun dipped lower, casting a golden glow over the landscape, Lyra turned to Kale. Do you remember the promise we made? That we would explore the stars together? Kale smiled, the memory lighting his eyes. I've never forgotten, and now maybe we still can. The reunion, however, was not without its challenges. The council had called an emergency session, and Lyra knew that Kale's presence, while personally comforting, would be politically complicated. Many in the council feared that trust in a human commander could influence her decisions too heavily. They whispered about divided loyalties, about alliances that might be threatened by personal connections. Lyra faced them in the council chamber, standing tall despite the tension. Kale fought for peace, not power. His victories saved countless lives, including those of my people. We will work together not because of childhood memories, but because it is the right choice for Veridia and for the galaxy." The room fell silent. Some council members nodded reluctantly, others scowled, but none could deny the truth in her words. Leadership required clarity, courage, and the ability to act beyond fear. And Lyra, standing beside Kale, embodied all three. As night fell over the orbiting palace, Lyra and Kale walked through the gardens where they had played as children. The flowers were different now, shaped by years of war and reconstruction, yet the familiar paths still remained. They walked side by side, speaking of simple things at first, childhood memories, small jokes, the moments that had shaped them. Then, slowly, they began to discuss the future. Kale shared ideas for reconstruction, strategies to unite the fractured planets, and ways to teach future generations about courage and cooperation. Lyra listened, adding her insights and sharing her vision for a peaceful galaxy. Together, their plans began to take shape, each suggestion building upon the other, a partnership born from trust and shared history. For the first time in many years, Lyra felt hope bloom within her. The war had left scars, but it had also returned something she thought she had lost forever, the bond of friendship, unbroken by time or distance. And with that bond, the possibility of a new beginning stretched out before them like the endless stars. As they gazed at the horizon, Lyra whispered softly, "Kale, whatever comes next, we face it together." Kale's hand found hers again, stronger this time, a silent promise in the touch. "Together," he agreed. The shadows of memory lingered, but they were no longer burdens. They were guides, leading Lyra and Kale into a future filled with hope, courage, and the strength of their shared past. And as the stars shimmered above, both knew that the true work had only just begun. The work of healing, uniting, and proving that even after the darkest wars, humanity and friendship could shine brighter than ever. The sun had barely risen over Veridia when Kale and Lyra met in the palace council chamber again. The morning light streamed through the tall windows, illuminating the polished floors and the ornate tapestries depicting centuries of Veridia's history. Today was different from yesterday. Today, the weight of past secrets and untold truths would finally come to the surface. Lyra sat at her throne, but her posture was more alert than before. Her mind raced with questions. The first battle they had won together, the narrow escape from the enemy's fleet, the countless nights Kale had survived against impossible odds, all of it seemed to build toward this very moment. She could no longer ignore the unease that had been growing inside her since their reunion. Kale entered the chamber quietly, but his presence filled the space. His eyes, sharp and thoughtful, never left Lyra as he approached. Despite the armor and the years of combat, there was something familiar in the way he moved, the same lightness he had carried as a child when they raced through the palace gardens. "Lyra," he said softly, bowing his head in respect, "you asked me to meet you here." "I am ready to tell you everything," Lyra nodded, taking a deep breath. "Kale, before we talk about the war, I need to know about you. How did you survive? Why did you fight so hard?" Kale smiled faintly, a mix of pride and sorrow in his expression. "I survived because I had a reason. Many of my soldiers gave their lives for the same cause, but I kept going because I remembered what mattered most. I remembered the promise we made long ago. I remembered you, Lyra. That promise, it kept me alive." Lyra felt her chest tighten. She had expected courage, skill, and leadership, but she had not expected to hear that their childhood bond had been the guiding light for the human hero of the war. She struggled to find words, to express the rush of emotions that had been building inside her since the day they first met again. Kale continued, his voice steady. "The final battle was not just about strategy. It was about hope. My soldiers trusted me because they believed in something greater than themselves. But I also had to trust someone I had not seen in years, someone I hoped was still alive." Lyra's fingers gripped the armrests of her throne. "Kale, I am alive, and I never forgot you either." For a moment, silence filled the room, thick and heavy, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Then Kale stepped closer, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "Lyra, there is something else you must know. During the war, I thought I would never see you again. And when I learned the truth, when I realized that you had survived, I felt something I cannot describe. Relief, hope, fear, all at once." Lyra's eyes softened, the memories of their childhood flooding back in vivid detail. She remembered hiding from the palace guards, climbing trees, and whispering dreams of exploring the stars. They had shared so much, and yet the years had placed a barrier between them. Now standing in the council chamber, they were face to face with a truth that neither could ignore. "Kale," she whispered, "I remember everything. I remember our games, our laughter, and our promises. I never thought I would see you again. And now that I have, I do not know what to do with all these years we lost." Kale reached out, gently resting a hand on hers. "We cannot change the past, Lyra, but we can shape the future, together." Their moment of intimacy, however, did not go unnoticed. The council members, seated along the sides of the chamber, watched with a mixture of awe and suspicion. Some whispered quietly, unsure whether to interfere. Others frowned, worried that personal attachments could influence critical decisions. Yet Lyra and Kale remained focused on each other, the bond of trust and friendship outweighing the fear and caution of the council. One of the senior council members, Minister Varin, finally spoke. His voice was calm but firm. "Princess Lyra, while your reunion with the human commander is moving, we must consider the political consequences. The council must ensure that personal feelings do not override the safety and interests of Veridia." Lyra nodded, acknowledging his concern without losing focus on Kale. "I understand, Minister Varin, but Kale's presence here is not a matter of personal attachment alone. His leadership and experience were instrumental in ending the war. And now, as we rebuild, his knowledge and guidance are invaluable." Kale bowed respectfully to the council. "I am here to serve the people, not to seek favor or power. My loyalty lies with the hope of peace, not with personal gain." Despite the council's cautious expressions, Lyra sensed that trust was slowly growing. Kale's words carried sincerity and courage, the same qualities she had admired in him as a child, but she knew that their challenges were far from over. The war had ended, but the aftermath was a delicate web of politics, rebuilding, and lingering mistrust between worlds. Later, in a private chamber, Lyra and Kale sat together at a long table, maps and reports spread before them. The remnants of the enemy's fleets were scattered across the galaxy, and the task of reconstruction loomed large. Cities had to be rebuilt, resources distributed, and alliances repaired. It was a monumental task, but together they felt capable of facing it. Kale studied the maps, pointing to areas of strategic importance. "We need to focus on rebuilding infrastructure first: transportation, communication, and medical facilities. Without these, people cannot begin to trust that peace is lasting." Lyra nodded, impressed by his practical approach. "And what about the citizens? Many are traumatized, angry, or confused. How do we ensure they believe in the future?" Kale smiled softly. "Hope is contagious. We show them that their leaders care, that their lives matter, and that their sacrifices were not in vain. We do not just rebuild cities, we rebuild trust, spirit, and courage." As they spoke, memories of their childhood adventures returned. The way they had climbed trees, explored secret tunnels, and imagined a universe full of possibilities. It all felt connected to their present mission. The innocence and determination of youth had become the foundation for the leaders they were now. Lyra looked at Kale, her eyes filled with determination. "Then let us begin. We may have lost years, but we can still make a difference together." Kale extended his hand. "Together," he agreed. Over the following days, Lyra and Kale worked closely, meeting with council members, generals, and civic leaders. Their collaboration was not without tension. Some council members remained skeptical, others tested Kale's loyalty. But through patience, transparency, and shared vision, they began to earn respect. Kale's calm confidence and Lyra's unwavering dedication created a powerful combination. During quiet moments, they would walk through the palace gardens, the alien flora now slowly returning after the war's devastation. They spoke of small joys and memories, and of the dreams they had once shared. Each story, each laugh, each recollection of the past strengthened the bond that had survived years of separation. One evening, as the twin moons rose over Veridia, Lyra and Kale stood on a balcony overlooking the city. The lights of the rebuilding efforts twinkled below, and a gentle wind stirred the leaves of the alien trees. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if we had never been separated?" Lyra asked softly. Kale nodded, gazing at the moons. "Every day. But I also believe that everything happens for a reason. The years apart tested us, but they also prepared us for this moment. We are here now, and that is what matters." Lyra leaned on the railing, her thoughts drifting. The war had taken so much, yet it had also returned something she had feared lost forever: A true friend, a guide, and perhaps even something more. The revelation of Kale's identity was not just a surprise. It was a reminder that even in the darkest times, connection and trust could endure. As the nights passed, Lyra and Kale continued their work. Together, they addressed the needs of the people, devised strategies for rebuilding, and fostered understanding between humans and Viridians. Their partnership became a symbol of hope, proof that unity was possible even after long years of conflict. Yet beneath their growing camaraderie, a subtle tension lingered. The Council's scrutiny, the remnants of war, and the challenges of leadership ensured that their journey would not be simple. They both knew that personal bonds could be both a strength and a vulnerability. But as they faced each new challenge, the memory of childhood friendship and the trust they had rebuilt became their anchor. One day, while reviewing reports of reconstruction efforts, Kale paused and looked at Lyra. "Do you remember the promise we made about exploring the stars?" Lyra smiled, her eyes sparkling. "Yes, and I still intend to keep it, perhaps not as children, but as the people we have become." Kale nodded, a sense of resolve in his expression. "Then we have much to look forward to. Together, we will not only rebuild Viridia, but also inspire hope across the galaxy." And as they stood there, side by side, a new understanding settled between them. The revelation of their shared past was not just a surprise. It was a bridge, connecting what had been lost with what could still be achieved. The shadows of memory no longer weighed heavily. They illuminated the path forward, guiding Lyra and Kale toward a future shaped by courage, trust, and the enduring power of friendship. The council chambers of Viridia were alive with discussion and tension. Lyra sat at the head of the long table, her hands folded calmly in front of her, but her mind raced. The reunion with Kale had brought hope and clarity, yet it also carried the weight of responsibility. The war had ended, but the task of uniting fractured worlds was far from simple. Kale stood beside her, reviewing reports from the human fleet and messages from other planetary leaders. Despite the calm exterior he maintained, he felt the pressure of expectations pressing on him from all directions. The humans who had fought under his command were watching, hoping that his guidance would prevent further bloodshed. The Viridians expected him to understand their ways and respect their customs. And the galaxy expected leaders who could forge peace from the ashes of war. "Princess Lyra," Minister Varin spoke, his voice firm but respectful. "While your cooperation with Commander Kale is admirable, some council members remain concerned. They fear that personal feelings could influence critical decisions. We must ensure that the reconstruction plans are fair and balanced for all citizens." Lyra nodded. "I understand, Minister, but Kale's presence is not about personal attachment. It is about expertise, experience, and vision. The people need leaders who understand both the human and Viridian perspectives. That is the only way we can rebuild trust and ensure lasting peace." Kale stepped forward, his voice calm and commanding. "I do not seek favor or authority. My goal is simple, to help the people recover, to restore what was lost, and to prevent further conflict. I am here to serve, not to rule." A murmur ran through the council. Some members still looked skeptical, but many were beginning to see the truth in his words. Kale's sincerity, combined with Lyra's unwavering leadership, made a powerful statement. After the council session, Lyra and Kale retreated to a quieter room overlooking the city. Below, citizens moved through the streets, rebuilding homes, clearing debris, and helping one another. The sight reminded Lyra of her own childhood dreams, of a world full of possibility and cooperation. "We have much work to do," Kale said quietly, his eyes scanning the bustling city below. "And not all of it will be easy. Some will resist change, some will hold on to anger, and others may doubt our intentions." Lyra nodded, her gaze steady. "We cannot control their doubts, only our actions. If we show fairness, courage, and determination, they will follow. They may not trust us immediately, but over time, they will." Kale's expression softened. "You are wise beyond your years, Lyra. Your people are fortunate to have you as their leader. And you as their protector," she replied gently. "Your victories saved countless lives. Without your courage, much of what we see now would not exist." They spent the next days visiting districts, meeting with citizens, and observing the rebuilding process firsthand. Lyra wanted to understand the needs of her people in every detail, while Kale offered guidance on logistics, resource distribution, and security. Together, they formed a rhythm. their collaboration strengthening with each passing day. During one visit to a hospital damaged during the war, Lyra and Kale observed volunteers helping the injured and displaced. The human and Veridian medical teams worked side by side, sharing knowledge and supporting one another. It was a small but powerful symbol of what could be achieved when worlds worked together. Kale leaned closer to Lyra as they watched. "This is the beginning," he said softly. "Not just of rebuilding structures, but of rebuilding trust, hope, and unity." Lyra nodded, her eyes reflecting the determination she felt within. "We must show them that the future is worth fighting for, even without a war. That courage is not just about battles, but about kindness, understanding, and vision." Their work, however, was not without challenges. Some council members continued to question Kale's loyalty. A few citizens whispered doubts about the presence of a human commander on Veridian soil. Old rivalries and prejudices simmered beneath the surface, threatening to disrupt their efforts. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Lyra and Kale convened a special meeting with key community leaders. The room was filled with tension, but also with a sense of anticipation. Everyone knew that decisions made here would influence the success of the rebuilding efforts. "Leaders of Veridia," Lyra began, her voice calm but firm, "we have endured a long and difficult war. Now we have a chance to rebuild, not just our cities, but our trust, our values, and our future. Commander Kale is here to offer guidance and expertise, not to replace your judgment or your authority. We must work together for the sake of all our people." Kale stepped forward, adding, "The war has shown us what happens when distrust and division control our decisions. We cannot allow that to happen again. Together, we can create a society stronger than before, a society that values courage, fairness, and cooperation." The leaders exchanged glances, some still hesitant, but many beginning to nod in agreement. Slowly, a sense of unity began to form, as they realized that the combined efforts of humans and Veridians could achieve more than either could alone. In the days that followed, Lyra and Kale continued to face political and social challenges, but their bond grew stronger. They spent hours planning reconstruction, coordinating resources, and listening to citizens' concerns. Each decision was deliberate, grounded in the knowledge that they were shaping the future of their worlds. Amid the work, they also found moments of quiet reflection. In the palace gardens, where alien flowers bloomed under the light of Veridia's twin moons, they walked together, discussing their dreams, fears, and memories. The innocence of their childhood friendship had matured into mutual respect, trust, and a shared vision for the galaxy. "Do you ever think about what life would have been like if the war never happened?" Lyra asked one night, her eyes tracing the patterns of stars above. Kale smiled softly. "Sometimes, but I also believe that the trials we faced prepared us for this. We are stronger now, wiser, and more capable of shaping a better future." Lyra nodded. "You are right, and perhaps in a way the war brought us back together. It reminded us of what truly matters: friendship, loyalty, and the courage to keep moving forward." As the weeks passed, Kale and Lyra's efforts began to bear fruit. Communities that had been divided by suspicion and fear started to cooperate. Reconstruction teams shared resources efficiently, rebuilding infrastructure and restoring basic services. Citizens slowly regained hope, inspired by the visible commitment of their leaders. One day, during a public ceremony to celebrate the reopening of a school destroyed during the war, Lyra spoke to the gathered crowd. "This is more than a building," she said, her voice carrying across the plaza. "It is a symbol of resilience, courage, and the power of unity. We are not defined by the wars we fought, but by the hope we hold for tomorrow. Together, humans and Veridians, we will rebuild stronger and wiser than before." Kale stood beside her, adding, "The future belongs to those who dare to believe in it. The children who will learn here are the leaders of tomorrow. Let us teach them courage, fairness, and cooperation, so that they may continue the work we begin today." The crowd erupted in applause, a chorus of voices celebrating not just the reopening of a school, but the promise of a better future. Lyra and Kale exchanged a glance, a silent acknowledgement of their shared mission and the trust they had rebuilt between them. Yet even in the midst of progress, challenges remained. Some neighboring planets remained wary of the human presence, and old rivalries threatened to resurface. Kale and Lyra knew that their work was far from complete. Diplomacy, patience, and unwavering determination would be required to maintain peace and inspire unity across the galaxy. One evening, as they stood on the balcony of the palace watching the lights of the city below, Lyra turned to Kale. "We have accomplished much, but there is still so much to do. Do you think we can truly unite all the worlds that were affected by this war?" Kale took her hand, his grip reassuring. "It will not be easy, but together we can lead by example. Courage, integrity, and trust are contagious. If we show the way, others will follow. The galaxy is capable of greatness, Lyra. We just need to guide it." Lyra smiled, feeling a sense of resolve settle within her. "Then we will guide it together." As they looked out over the city, the twin moons reflecting in their eyes, they knew that the journey ahead would be long and challenging. But they also knew that with trust, courage, and the bond they had rebuilt, they could overcome any obstacle. The shadows of the past had not disappeared, but they no longer controlled their future. For the first time since the war had begun, Lyra and Kale felt the full weight and the full promise of peace. And in that promise, the galaxy found hope. The morning sun rose over Veridia like a promise. Its warm light spread across the cities, illuminating the signs of reconstruction and renewal. The war had ended, and while scars still remained on the planet's surface, the people were determined to rebuild. For Lyra and Kale, this day was more than a victory of strategy or courage. It was a symbol of hope, unity, and the possibility of a peaceful future. The council chamber had been transformed into a grand hall for the peace ceremony. Banners of human and Viridian colors hung side by side, fluttering gently in the soft morning breeze. Delegates from neighboring planets arrived, their ships lining the spaceport in orderly precision. Everyone had gathered to witness not only the treaty, but also the partnership between two worlds that had once been divided by war. Lyra stood at the center of the hall, her violet eyes scanning the crowd. She felt a mixture of pride and nervous anticipation. The people of Veridia looked to her for guidance, and today she would show them that peace was possible. Kale stood beside her, tall and composed, the hero of the war yet a humble partner in the work of rebuilding. His presence was a reminder that courage, loyalty, and trust could bridge worlds. The ceremony began with speeches from council members, military leaders, and representatives of allied planets. Each speaker emphasized the importance of unity, compassion, and resilience. Applause echoed through the hall, filling it with energy and hope. But the most significant moment was yet to come, the moment when Lyra and Kale would speak together, demonstrating that friendship, trust, and courage could inspire even the most divided hearts. Lyra stepped forward first, her voice calm and clear. "Citizens of Veridia, humans, and allies from across the galaxy, today we stand not only as survivors of war but as builders of a new future. The past has taught us that division leads to suffering. Today, we choose unity, courage, and trust." Kale followed, his tone steady and warm. "The war tested us all, forcing us to face fear, loss, and uncertainty. Yet through it, we discovered that hope and friendship can endure even the darkest times. Together, we can rebuild not just our cities, but the spirit of cooperation that makes life meaningful." The crowd responded with cheers, a chorus of voices celebrating the promise of peace. Children waved banners, workers paused in their tasks to witness the event, and elders nodded in approval. The ceremony was more than a formal declaration. It was a moment of shared understanding, a demonstration that even after devastation, hope could flourish. After the speeches, Lyra and Kale moved to the ceremonial stage to sign the peace treaty. The document, simple yet powerful, represented commitment, fairness, and mutual respect. As Lyra dipped her hand in ink to sign, she felt Kale's steady presence beside her. When Kale signed the treaty, their hands brushed, and a small, unspoken smile passed between them. In that simple gesture, the bond of friendship and trust was reaffirmed, stronger than ever. Once the treaty was signed, Lyra addressed the crowd again. "Let this day be remembered not as the end of conflict, but as the beginning of cooperation. Let our actions from this day forward guide our children and their children. Together, we will build a galaxy where courage, friendship, and unity are celebrated above all else." Kale stepped closer, adding, "We are proof that even enemies can become partners, that even the most challenging obstacles can be overcome. Our shared past, our shared struggles, and our shared dreams have led us to this moment. Let it inspire everyone to believe that the future can be brighter than the past." The applause that followed was thunderous, filling the grand hall with energy and celebration. Delegates shook hands, citizens cheered, and a sense of hope settled over Veridia like a gentle light. The ceremony was a success, a declaration not only of peace, but also of what humanity and cooperation could achieve when guided by courage and trust. After the official events, Lyra and Kale took a moment to step onto the balcony overlooking the city. The streets below were alive with celebration, people dancing, singing, and working together to rebuild. The destruction of war was still visible, but it was tempered by the energy of renewal. Lyra turned to Kale, her eyes reflecting the light of the rising sun. "We have accomplished so much, Kale, yet there is still more to do. Do you think the people will continue to trust us as we lead them through this new era?" Kale's hand found hers, a firm and reassuring grip. "Trust is built over time, Lyra. We have shown them our intentions, our courage, and our commitment. Now it is up to everyone to carry it forward, but we will continue to lead by example, side by side." Lyra nodded, feeling the warmth of hope settle in her heart. The years apart, the war, and the challenges they had faced together had all prepared them for this moment. The childhood promise to explore the stars and support one another had grown into a partnership capable of guiding entire worlds. As the day progressed, Lyra and Kale visited the districts most affected by the war. They met citizens who had rebuilt their homes with their own hands, volunteers who had shared food and resources, and children who had returned to schools that had been repaired or newly constructed. Everywhere they went, they were met with smiles, gratitude, and admiration. The people had seen hope return to their lives, and it was clear that their leaders were not just symbols. They were active participants in shaping the future. During a quiet moment in one of the newly restored parks, Kale spoke softly. "Do you remember the tunnels beneath the palace gardens where we used to play?" Lyra laughed lightly, a sound that carried warmth and nostalgia. "How could I forget? We thought we were explorers discovering hidden worlds beneath the surface." Kale smiled. "We were, in a way, and now our exploration continues, not beneath gardens but across entire worlds. Our duty is to guide them, to show that courage, cooperation, and friendship can overcome even the greatest challenges." Lyra looked out at the horizon, the twin moons of Veridia casting a gentle glow over the landscape. "Then we continue, Kale, together, just as we promised." The night fell, bringing a quiet peace over the city. Fires from celebrations glowed like stars, reflecting the hope that had returned to the people. Lyra and Kale stood on the balcony of the palace, watching as citizens danced and sang. The air was filled with laughter, the scent of flowers, and the faint hum of life returning to its natural rhythm. In that moment, they realized that the true victory of war was not the battles won or the enemies defeated, but the bonds that endured beyond conflict. Friendship, trust, and courage had survived the darkest days, emerging stronger and guiding them toward a future brighter than they had imagined. Lyra turned to Kale, her eyes reflecting the light of the twin moons. "Kale, the future is uncertain, but I feel ready for it. With you by my side, I believe we can face anything." Kale's hand closed over hers once more, a silent promise. "And we will. Whatever challenges come, we face them together. We have learned that courage is not just about fighting. It is about standing for what is right, even when it is difficult, and inspiring others to do the same." Days turned into weeks, and the work of rebuilding continued. Lyra and Kale led reconstruction efforts, strengthened alliances, and created programs to teach younger generations about the importance of trust, courage, and cooperation. Their example inspired not only the people of Veridia, but also neighboring planets, showing that unity and friendship could flourish even after long periods of conflict. One morning, as they walked through a bustling market filled with restored shops and joyful citizens, Lyra paused. "Kale, look at them. All these people, they are alive, they are thriving, and we helped them reach this point." Kale smiled, watching children play and traders exchange goods. "It is proof that even after the darkest times, hope can survive. Courage, friendship, and unity are more powerful than war, fear, or hatred. The galaxy can be a better place because of the choices we make today." Lyra nodded, feeling a sense of fulfillment she had never imagined. The journey had been long and difficult, but the results were clear. Together, they had not only survived, but had created the foundation for a future filled with possibility. As the sun set, casting golden light across the city, Lyra and Kale stood together on the palace balcony. The wind carried the scent of flowers and the faint hum of life, a reminder of all they had achieved. The journey ahead would continue to challenge them, but they were ready. Side by side, they would guide their people, inspire hope, and explore the universe together, not as children playing in secret gardens, but as leaders shaping a brighter future for all. The stars above twinkled like reminders of past dreams and future promises. In the hearts of Lyra and Kale, a new dawn had risen, a dawn of courage, friendship, unity, and the enduring power of hope. The galaxy had witnessed the strength of humanity and compassion, and the legacy of their actions would inspire generations to come. The war was over. The rebuilding had begun, and two friends, reunited against the odds, stood ready to face whatever the future held, together.